Yeah, this is the Seton Rivals podcast. Each and every week we get after it and we talk about high school football in and around the Chandler area. And we have been doing it for, wow, this is year 12. It keeps going and going and growing and growing. 3 platforms to check out: Arizona Varsity Podcast Network, Facebook page, and of course, Sports 360 AZ. We are very, very visible, folks. And after a week in which our teams win 3 wins and 2 losses because of the various buys and season ending, we'll stay even more visible. And I'll bring out my 2 partners in crime as we have a lot to talk about. There is plenty. We've got coaching movement, we've got teams moving on, and it's going to be a doozy. We bring out Ralph Amsden and Chili as, this week a lot has happened since the last time the 3 of us got together. But before we dive in, I always just like to find out what's going on in everybody's life outside of the high school football. Sometimes we talk sports, sometimes we talk movies. Chili, give me something good.
I just, I'm a serial binger. Like I watch a lot of stuff on Netflix and.
I thought you were going to talk about like Tricks and Frosted Flakes.
No, I'm pretty much like a Lucky Charms guy. Lucky Charms, Frosted Flakes, Cocoa Krispies. Those are my 3. But I binge all these terrible reality TV shows because when I was in radio, that was like my job was to sidekick and know everything that was going on these ridiculous TV shows, The Bachelor, The Bachelorette, stuff like that. So I got sucked into all this stuff on Netflix and all this Love Island and Love is Blind and all this terrible stuff for you. Don't start, because once you start, it's like a Pringles. It's like Pringles. Like you just can't stop. So
hey, shout out Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. That's my jam.
See, okay. Like all that stuff. And so like I just get so sucked into it, and I'm like, oh, I just want to, it's a lot. And so like I was up to like, I don't know, like 2 a.m. or something like that, watching Love is Blind and trying to figure out like who's going to get married and who's not, and meeting some like I wonder, like, could I, I always try to like put myself in the situation, like I was taught in radio when I was doing the morning show over there. Like I was always taught like, oh, Chili, just put yourself in the situation and, could you survive and thrive in that atmosphere? And I'm trying to think like, if I met somebody, and wasn't able to see them, just talk to them through a wall, could I actually find a sustainable relationship? And a part of me thinks like that would work so much easier. Like I would just be sitting there kicked up with like my feet like on the desk, and I would just be doing this, but like this. So like, I think it would be cool. Like, so yeah, I don't know, but yeah, there's that. But don't start. If you're thinking about it, don't start. That's my advice.
I'll say that I started with Love Island on day 1, which is like, I want to say 6 years ago, but then it moved over to the various streaming platforms, and I don't do a lot of streaming, but no pun intended, I love the premise of Love Island. It's very interesting. It's good stuff. It's not family fun, but it's good stuff.
So for me, I can't start at season 5 or 6. So I actually talked to Claudia was the one that
Claudia Collins. Yeah, we had the conversation, the 3 of us. Yeah.
Yeah, like she's the one that like sucked me into the whole Love Island world. And so I was like, okay, cool. So I went back to the beginning, and I've been streaming like nonstop to catch up, and I'm finally caught up. But now there's like Love Island All-Stars in UK and Australia.
And see, I can't roll with that. That's like, the All-Star of Love. That just makes no sense.
It's so wild. No, it's crazy. It's crazy. But listen, I watch it, and if you want to talk about it, there's some Arizona girls in there. One of the dudes
there was Tatum from year 1 or year 2, or maybe it was a different Highland
I think there's been 3 Arizona girls, and there's one dude that moved to Arizona, and I saw him at my gym, and he actually works out. Like, he doesn't just like spray on the sweat and stuff and try to look good for the TV. Like, he's actually there throwing up that real weight. So shout out to him. But anyways, that's what I've been doing. I've been binging.
That's fair. Ralph, what you got?
Well, I mean, so get this. My middle son, who you guys know, joined the wrestling team.
Okay.
So I spent the last week like getting him you get the knee pads, but they're not the volleyball knee pads, and you only need one. I've learned that. And then I got him the wrestling shoes. I wrestled in high school, but it's been a long time now. And he's been at practice every day, and he's loving it. It's been interesting to, like, the one kid that I was pretty sure was not going to play any sports is already on his second sport in his freshman year of high school. So that's been kind of fun to watch. I've just been getting used to being a wrestling dad. First meet is on Friday at the same time as a playoff football game that my other son is. So he puts you in a situation where you got to make choices.
You are stretched thin. Wow. No, that's but I will say it is.
At least I'm thin somewhere.
It's very cool to see your children participating in youth and now varsity or high school sports. And now that's fantastic stuff. One other quick question before we jump into the high school scene. Have you guys been watching, or did you watch the Aaron Hernandez 10-episode jam on FX?
I seen like the highlights on social media.
It just finished.
Okay, that's what I was waiting for, because I can't do one episode at a time.
It is very, very good. I'll say I had no reason to ever really like him. I don't like the Patriots. I never got with the Gators, all that sort of stuff. He was just another random NFL player. But to kind of see his story, it's really good. They hit a lot of points that I was kind of unfamiliar with. It draws you in. You'll end up watching all 10. If you watch the first one, you'll watch all 10.
I heard that the acting was so on point. I heard Gronkowski was better than Gronkowski, and based on some of the clips that I saw, I can see it.
It's good stuff. Definitely well worth your time. And I'll say that Valley Christian, they got it done on the volleyball court. Yes, C-Town rivals, we certainly give love to all of the other sports when we can outside of football, and to see it be a all C-Town championship at the 3A level for girls volleyball. The Crusaders, that's the other Northwest Christian. The Trojans, They knock off Seton Catholic to claim the crown. So congratulations to Valley Christian, and it's just a testament to everything within C-Town, whether it's the CUSD, whether it's the powerhouse on the girls basketball side of Seton Catholic. We've seen Valley Christian dominate in basketball as well. So props to everybody who is not a football athlete, but within C-Town, because we certainly give football a lot of love. But in this case, it's about Valley Christian volleyball. So props to you guys. We'll slide over to, I'm going to say, the meat of the matter. And we've never started off with the Chandler Wolves and the news that has come out over the last, we'll say, 48 hours or so. Rick Garretson, he steps down as the head coach of the Chandler Wolves. He had an amazing run. I want to ask all three of us, and Ralph, I'll start with you. What did Coach G mean to you? He's alive and well. He's just not going to be patrolling the sidelines anymore.
Man, so it's a tough one, because like you said, he's alive and well, right? Mm-hmm. And you do want to take the opportunity to give people their flowers while they're still around. And the cool thing about this podcast is I feel like we take every top opportunity we can. It was a very special staff at Chandler High School that helped turn this thing around, starting with Rick Garretson helping call the offense that his son was running. your first ever Chandler High football game was watching Daryl Garretson at quarterback.
Come back against Basha.
Win against Basha. That's right. And, and now Daryl lives out here in the same city as me, working in NASCAR. And it's been really cool to see some of the kids that we covered, early on out here living their lives. Santana Sterling about to have his first kid. Brittany Thomas, Hamilton volleyball, just turned 30. It's crazy watching people, live their lives and where they got their start. And Coach G was part of the early turnaround for Chandler. And when Iguano got that much deserved promotion, and say what you want about Herm Edwards, I try to, even with people I don't necessarily agree with, try to always keep one positive thing in the chamber, right? And I feel like what Herm Edwards did for Sean Iguano, elevating him, treating him like a real college football coach and not just a token, Arizona guy, was great. But I think a lot of people were afraid what was going to happen to Chandler High in Sean Iguano's absence, unless you were around that program, unless you knew the culture that got built up with Chris Chick and Rick Garretson and Coach Boyd and everybody involved. I guess for anybody that would say, because we got a lot of this when Steve Bellis left Hamilton. He was just maintaining what Coach Wren built. I don't think people understand how difficult maintenance is.
Right. I
don't think you understand how difficult it is to come in and win your first 32 games, which he did. He also coached in an era that Sean Iguano never did with the Open, right? He has 2 Open championships in a system that was designed right when Chandler found its footing to be a dominant program, was designed to lessen the amount of dominant programs that exist. Made the Open 5 times, had 9 wins, was 4-3 in a battle for Arizona Avenue. People be like, well, Sean Iguano. He did not have a winning record in the battle for, or if he did, it came toward the end of his tenure, because they started out 0-17. It took a while to get, it's not easy to beat Hamilton. It's just not. And he had a winning record against Hamilton. I believe he was 5-0 in out-of-state games, which was something that was very important to him, getting Chandler out of state and playing those games. They went 5-6 this year, in a large part because a lot of the programs that are less than 5 miles away from them were also massively talented. It's a tough area and region to win in. I guess I don't have a lot of patience for anybody who would want to remove any credit from Rick Garretson, given that he was part of all 6 titles, given that he was the head coach for the 2 Opens, had 9 Open playoff wins, which I think at this point is the most that anyone has had, because Mons left after winning in 2021. But I don't know. I can't. And as a person, I'm going to share just a short story. And Chili knows this. I make it a point to not get close to coaches. Arizona varsity, the mission of it has always been that the kids are our audience. And I feel like there's enough publications where all they do is just get a quote from the coaches, or they only deal with the parents. We try to deal with the kids as well and promote the kids, give them something to read and watch that they are proud of. And it's not just flashy social media content, but it's sustainable stuff that they can go back to 10 years down the road when they're trying to have a conversation with their own kids about starting up Pee Wee football. That stuff's really important to us. So I'm not close with very many coaches. In another world, I feel like Rick Garretson and I would be friends. He's always been very good to me. This last time in March, when I brought my kids out to Arizona to show them around, stopped by Chandler High School just to see what they were up to. He invited us into the film room, and he spent 30 minutes just talking to my kids. My kids don't know what I do. I don't talk to them about my job. I never cared what my dad's job was. It wasn't interesting. That's my dad. I'm living my own life. But to have Coach Garretson sit there and talk to my 2 teenage sons about everything I've done and how important the work that we do is, they left that room with a completely different view of who I was. And he didn't need to do that, right? He didn't need to take time to talk to my kids about who I am as a person. So I'm taking the 5 minutes on this podcast to let everybody know this is one of the best men that I've ever dealt with. This is one of the men with the purest intentions that I've ever been around. This is somebody who roots for everybody who's ever worn blue and white, or who played Arizona high school football, or who even played for Hamilton. He's keeping up with what they're up to. He wants everybody to thrive. And he's part of a very successful sports family, having his dad be an NBA ref, his brother be an NBA ref. He got nephews that played in the NFL for a long time. His son was a college quarterback. He could be elitist, but he's not. He just loves ball. And I'm sure that whatever he does, whatever he chooses to be a part of, everybody around him is going to be blessed for having more of his time. And I just want to thank him for everything he did for the kids in the city of Chandler. And so there's a lot of parents out there who and Chili will back this up, who didn't realize how good they had it to be around that man and that staff and that culture. It's never going to be the same. And I'm just super grateful for the time that we had with Coach Garretson as Chandler High's coach.
I'll definitely say, everything that you said is just spot on. It goes back to that Chandler culture, and they say the best music to a man's ears is his first name. And Sean Iguana was the first coach in a press conference or a post-game scrum. Hey, Brett, yeah, we did this. It's like, oh, okay, he knows my name. That's interesting, weird. I'd barely been on the scene for less than 2 years or so. And then it rolls into Rick Garretson. It was one of those things where that first year that he took over, I didn't really know him. I usually don't know assistants very well. That's just for better or for worse. I usually don't know assistants too often. And I wound up getting the assignment of their first open game against Chaparral. Jack Miller was the quarterback then. So I always like to have a decent talk. And he's like, yeah, Brett, hey, yeah, come by my office. And it's like, this is a guy who I never really said word one to, even throughout the course of the season, maybe a quick wave, or again, we're usually interviewing the kids. So the way he handles it goes back to what you said, Ralph, the way he approaches everybody, the way he goes about his and makes everyone really feel wanted and part of it. I'll say that was big for me. And the last thing that he and I text with the other night, he's like, I'll miss our talks, Brett. So that was that's big. And yes, all of the accolades of the records and everything, very, very important. But how he made us feel as humans, I think, is even above that.
Man, dude, I'm stunned. I actually I actually just learned that his first name was Rick through the press release and all that stuff, because I literally have every coach's name saved in my phone as Coach, and then whatever their last name is, Coach Taylor, Coach whatever, and then I put the school if there's multiples of them, and but man, I don't know how to explain the dynamic of me and Coach Garretson's relationship. He was always extra hard on me on Varsity Fridays, whether it was picking against them or not giving them the juice that his kids deserve, because that was the most important thing to me. He felt like, oh, Chili, you have your finger on the pulse of everything, and the kids they're super grateful. How come you don't give my kids more juice on the offensive line? And how come you don't show my defensive guys more credit? And so he would always give me a hard time on Varsity Fridays about that. But I built this great relationship with his freshman coach, Coach Boyd, going out to all the freshman games. On freshman Wednesdays, it was very, very different. I would see Coach Garretson typically in the golf cart, and it would be nothing about football. He would pull me aside and talk to me, for 20, 30 minutes about life stuff. Whatever he saw was going on in my life. Like, I don't know how much everybody thinks that he paid attention to them, but at least for me, way back with the whole sideline chick, who was amazing. We broke up, and Coach Garretson kind of found out. And the first freshman game that I went to, after that, he pulled me aside and he just wanted to talk and ask how I was, how she was. Is everything okay? And I didn't realize, like, I have friends. I have Ralph. I have other people that, old roommates and my parents and my sister and stuff that I talked to about it. But I didn't realize, like, how much, like, I actually needed, like, somebody within to just pull me aside and kind of just let you know, like, oh, man, I care about, like, you as a human and not just the publicity that you drive to my school and for my kids. And gratitude. Now I say that, and it was so genuine. So I don't need 150 coaches, assistant coaches pulling me aside right now and say, oh, hey, how's everything going? But, like, whatever it was, like, Garretson always knew. Girlfriend, dogs. I remember when I got my newest bulldog, Chewbacca. A rescue, and he spent about 20 minutes talking to me about that. And did I get the dog's shots? Is he? Did I take him to the vet? Is he healthy? How bad's the situation? And man, it was just so refreshing. Like, just being able to converse with him. Like, he has his own kids. And then on top of that, he has a program of almost 200 kids. And, that he was willing to, just pull me aside and chat. And, while he's got to deal with coaches calling him, because I do remember, like, in a couple of those situations, college coaches were calling him. And I'm like looking at his phone, I'm like, you should probably take that. He's like, no. They're going to be there in 5 minutes when we finish this conversation. I just hope that all coaches are able to compartmentalize their job and their relationships and the people that are around their programs and stuff. And I think that it's important because in this day and age, with Ralph, you broke the story with, like, the Edge twins and stuff. Coaches really should be taking that time to dive into the people that are hanging around their program, that are filming their kids, that are doing the research. Do a little bit extra. Garretson always made sure to do one thing, and I think it's one of the most important things: protect his sidelines. He didn't care about the YouTubers and the clicks and all that stuff. He was there to try to win football games. He was there to try to compete. And when some of that stuff got out of hand, and I'm not talking about, like, the alumni, the extra alumni people that come around the program for the Chandler Hamilton game. I'm talking about the extra ridiculous, like, YouTubers that bring a circus of kids around the sidelines that are unnecessary and that become a distraction for his program. Coach Garretson, top to bottom, he did one of the best jobs. And I don't care what the win-losses are. I don't care what his win-losses are. He did one of the hardest things imaginable, and that's following up a legend, and in the process, creating your own legacy. It is so difficult. And I don't think parents or kids today understand how difficult it is to follow up somebody like Coach Iguano. Ask Coach Hill, who did it for Coach Mons. Ask any coach that followed Coach Regal. Like, dude, those steps are hard. And God bless the person that has to follow Coach Taylor at Centennial. Dude, that is a difficult task. All Coach Garretson did was win at the beginning, and it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough for them. It wasn't enough. So I'm so mad. I'm so mad at all those parents 2 years ago, 3 years ago, calling for Garrettson's job. He's one of the best coaches in high school football that I've ever dealt with. Human, top to bottom, 360.
Yeah, no, it's I think what is really good is he had an effect on all three of our lives in different ways. I mean, we all have a different approach to the game itself and to other humans, but Garretson was certainly a big part, and he certainly merited going first. We've never had any type of coaching change at the beginning of this show. Chandler certainly not, but he certainly has he's earned every positive word that we could imagine. And as we slide on, I guess, where do we go from here? When I say we, like we're making the decision, that we're not, but thoughts on what type of job it is, who could be an initial front runner, the type of school it is. There's so many things, because that's the one thing that I think is definitely, I think it's accurate. And Ralph, you would be able to best say than I am, since you are an alum of the school, the culture of that. There's a certain vibe that Chandler High School has that's like no other in Seton, whether they're up, down, now, 10 years ago. Chandler High School is its own identity. It's not suburban like Hamilton or Basha or whatever. It's going to take a special person to be the next head coach of Chandler football.
Yeah, they've had 2 coaches since, 2011? So it's a tough one, because, Sean Aguano was at Chandler High from 2003 to 2011 when he took over for Coach Ewan. Rick Garretson was there for the entire run of Aguano when he took over. The family is not as together as it used to be. People grow, they move on. There are a lot of coaches who were assistants at Chandler that have moved on to doing things elsewhere. So that's probably going to be something that people think is that Chandler's going to go dip back into that pool. But one of the things about winning is then you start to get some applicants that maybe you want to entertain those names instead of looking within. So I don't envy the group that is going to have to make this decision, because there are good in-house candidates. There are people at the school right now. There are people who have been at the school, Brock Farrell, Coach Vaught, there are, but it's not like the Chandler Unified School District to rob Peter to pay Paul. They don't do that. Correct. So, the idea of ACP, shifting its coach over to Chandler, I don't think that's a thing that's going to happen. So I got to tell you, man, I'm genuinely baffled at what to do here, because I think they're going to get some applications that they don't even expect. And they're going to be from all over the state. And the reason isn't just because of the pedigree. They have the Cheetahs Track Club on campus. There's a wellspring of talent that comes from that every single year. From, the Richardsons, Eric and Derek, and what they bring to the table. There's always going to be great athletes around that are part of that, 25-year run of incredible track teams they've had out there. So I don't know. I think that Chile, maybe you feel more comfortable speculating. I felt more comfortable speculating about Hamilton last year. And, they did go in-house for the very first time. They went in-house for the first time ever. Chandler can't go in-house for, they're not going to go get Bryce Perkins to be there, because their first championship quarterback's not old enough, and he's not coaching, and he's got other things going on. Yeah. So, where do you think they go with this, Chili? Because I'm honestly at a loss. It makes sense to keep it in the family, but at the same time, we're going to see huge names, and some names I don't want to say out loud because they're still coaching in the playoffs, right?
They're in the play. Yep.
So last night at the end of my show, I brought this up a little bit, and I said what I wouldn't do was I wouldn't bring up current head coaches coaching, because I didn't want to do that to them. But I do think that there's a flurry of up and coming coordinators or position coaches that should start looking at some of these jobs, some of these openings, not just Chandler, but some of these openings. But since they're in another state now, it's whatever. But I know the Carters' names are surfacing for head coaching opportunities. Arizona Cardinals Coach of the Years just a year ago. But some young guys, some young talent, because like whoever comes in and takes Chandler over, they can keep the Ohana culture if they want, but they have to have their own brand and their own twist to it and their own way of embracing it and adopting it. Also, what I think is very important is, and just like when I made the whole, Dillingham is coming to ASU announcement, and he was bringing most likely Regal and Amy, which happened. And then I also said in the tweet, he would do everything he can to retain Iguano, who at the time was interim head coach. I do think that whoever comes in needs to retain a few pieces that are there right now. One of those being Coach Boyd, the longtime freshman coach who built the sustainable foundation over there of continuity for Chandler to continue to be successful and competitive at a high level.
What's Boyd's first name? It's Brett.
Tim?
But
Brett.
Yeah.
Brett.
Yeah.
I just wanted to hear Chili say my name.
It is. I do remember that because so now I started saving like first names too, but a little bit as I get to know guys. But also they have such a unique situation on the ground floor over there at Chandler. Coach Frazier, Jawan Frazier, has taken over that freshman program and has brought with him TJ Green coaching running backs. Like, they are for real implementing a wolves raise wolves environment. Now, you couple that up with the Ohana that they have, the quote unquote Ohana culture, and you might have something that will be able to be bridged if whoever comes in can adopt it. In addition to the Carters, like names out there that I would love to see at least apply, maybe not get the job, but Coach Carroll from Pinnacle, who I think has done a great job climbing the ladder of success. He's a Regal disciple. Offensive, he's somewhat of an offensive whiz kid. He's done a great job coaching tight ends. I don't know, maybe you heard of that guy, Deuce Robinson. He coached Deuce. He's done a great job coaching quarterbacks. He dealt with a circus when Dylan Raiola transferred over there. And, he's done a pretty good job, helping Wyatt Horton along. So, look, man, I think that Carroll is definitely a coach that, should apply, should put his name out there. One guy that I know that Brett's going to talk to, and I think that he would vouch for, is Coach Ortiz, the offensive coordinator over there at ACP. This young guy is an absolute monster. I think that,
he's so cool.
I think he can get those athletes up and down the field and moving. There's a lot of them. Coach Gata over there really seems to have his finger on the pulse over at Centennial with the wide receivers. I'm not sure what Coach Lee, the offensive coordinator at Centennial, is also doing. Like, dude, there's a lot of names that I think, should really start looking at some of these opportunities.
I do have one name if they go outside. Yeah. If they go outside, I have one that I would trust as a Chandler alum to step in there, respect the tradition, and get the offense cooking, keep the offense cooking. Ryan Felker.
That's a hell of a name over there at Basha right now, the OC at Basha and the longtime head coach over there at Mesa Community College. Like, that's a big name also. And I think that Felker's absolutely amazing in what he does. And I know that he could run a program.
It'll be interesting. I mean, this is something that we've not really. When I say we haven't experienced before at Chandler, yes, of course there was the transition, but that seemingly was seamless. Where here they've got some work to do. They've got some applicants to check out, and we of course will try to keep you guys abreast as much as we know. And it'll be a fun watch. It'll be a definitely anticipated or very people looking to see who gets the top spot at a very big-time football school and a very solid academic school within the CUSD. We'll step out of the CUSD and talk about the Seton Catholic Sentinels. Their season ends at the hands of Arcadia with a 34-30 hard-fought loss to the Titans. Luke Aguiar, Corey Edwards, they each rushed for a pair of touchdowns. But in this one, the defense gave up more points to anyone with the exception of Snowflake. Ralph, I'll say it's not really about how many points they gave up or how many they scored. This was just a team that had some really good bright spots, and they've got a lot to build on. Great season by Walheim and the gang.
Yeah, I mean, probably the biggest surprise of the podcast. If you go back and you listen to like our preseason primer, we look like a-holes.
Dang.
Are you right?
We do.
Right.
We do talking about Seton because we're like, it's been years and years of this. They probably can't compete at the 4A anyway. Like if one good thing could happen for Seton, it's not a coaching change. It's they need to be dropped down. Well, I'm pretty sure that's how I remember feeling. I don't know if you guys.
No, you're right. No, we gave it to them pretty good early on. We really did.
You know who didn't win 8 games this year?
Valley Christian.
Or Chandler. Or
Chandler.
Yep. Right. Or Casteel yet. Like, it. Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't even know if we owe them an apology, but we talk more about them than anybody does, and we've given them their flowers all year long. But I just was going back thinking about how we were talking about them going into this season. It is very disappointing to lose in the first round of the playoffs. I thought they deserved better than the 10th seed. They dropped down because of a Week 10 Ironwood Ridge loss to Marana Mountain View, I believe. Otherwise, I don't think they're playing Arcadia in that first round game, and maybe they're still going. But they had multiple opportunities to win this game.
Yes,
they were in it. And they should be proud and pissed off. Whatever the mix is that's going to keep this going into next year. I mean, to be talking about them in late November, being disappointed they didn't go further in the playoffs, you never. I'm more surprised by that than I am Arizona State being eligible for the college football playoff on November 20th. Like that, Seton Catholic, we had written them off almost. And so awesome surprise. Luke Aguiar, that defense, over 30 turnovers generated. The O-line, Coach Walheim, finally, getting the interview with you after we worked hard on that all year. Just I hope that we brought a little bit of extra fun to a special season that they had, and I hope that I hope they come into next year with this as the standard.
I think you're right. I mean, I think things are bright over there. Chili, I'll ask you, and you probably observed the same thing. And just for proximity purposes, we've both been able to see Seton play live last year and this year. They're bigger, and there's more kids on the sidelines, which is great. I think they're one more class away from really being dudes in the 4A. And when I say one more class, if you can, everybody would love to have Luke Aguiar, of course. But if you can get another good running back or another QB for 2 years out of a recruiting class or out of a freshman class, we'll say, this has legs again to get back to mini machine status.
Yeah. I had this conversation with Coach Campbell from Williamsfield a couple of years ago about some schools operate in cycles where they every 3 or 4 years they'll get a special group of kids that help carry and balance everything out so that every 3 or 4 years they can be very, very successful. They can compete for a state title. They can go have a deep playoff run or whatever, because for a while, that's the way it seemed like it was over at Williamsfield. I think that Seton, like you just brought up, Brett, like they just need a good group of kids to come in and sustain that. Build off of this year. Don't fall, as long as they don't plummet into 1-9 or 0-10 or something. As long as they can keep it afloat, and next year break even, go 500, maybe go 6-4 and snatch a playoff spot. They can keep things going. You don't have to be 8-2 or 9-1, 10-0 every year. You just need to build up so that every couple of years you can have that special run, so that you can make a deep playoff run and make these games versus teams that should be your rivals, whether it's like the ACPs or the Valley Christians, and make them meaningful. Give us a chance to deliver some of the hype, sell some of the heat.
Dude, I just think about Nico Pastore, right? He's like one of their leading tacklers in 2023. I think he's their leading receiver in 2023. And if you went up to him before this season and you said, like, hey, you're going to have less yards than you had last year, you're going to have less tackles than you had last year, but you're going to have so much fun. Like, you can, everybody's going to step up to the level that you played at in 2023.
And that's what happened.
Yeah, and the tough sledding that you did last year is going to pay off your senior year. You're going to go from 2-8 to 8-3. You're going to get 5 picks. Like, it's the whole like bamboo thing, right? You water it, the roots spread, and then one day the bamboo shoots up 60 feet. And that we witnessed a bamboo year, like you said. It comes in cycles or whatever. And I hope that it kind of becomes a standard, but we also know it's fleeting. Nothing lasts forever, not even hard times, at least not for the schools in Chandler that we cover. Nobody's just been bottom of the barrel the whole time that we've been covering them. Everybody ebbs and flows. And so I really hope they enjoyed this year. And now you kind of like in the back of your head, you're rooting for Arcadia a little bit. Obviously, who they play makes that difficult. But, Seton Catholic's going to want to know that they almost beat the best. And so, it'll be interesting from here on out. They lose in the playoffs this week in volleyball to Valley Christian. They lose in the playoffs to Arcadia in football. But to even get there is massive. And I'm looking forward to next year.
And they had Arcadia on the ropes.
They did.
Yeah.
They were up.
Like, they had Arcadia on the ropes. Like, it was heartbreaking. It was heartbreaking for me seeing the final tweet that they lost. I was sad.
It was tough. I definitely want to say Jim Shoebridge, the AD over at Seton Catholic, thank you for allowing us into your program. Of course, Pete Walheim, thank you. And yes, we certainly look forward to really continuing and enhancing our Sentinels coverage in 2025. The Arizona College Prep Knights. Well, yeah, the same old mantra. They keep dominating. They continue. This time it's a first-round 37-14 victory over Estrella Foothills. Balanced effort by this team as usual. And who better to talk about it than not one, not two, but 3 assistants on ACP, the OC, the DC, and the special teams coach. We're going to start off with Robert Ortiz, the offensive coordinator. Coach, you came over from Marcos Deniza, if I'm correct. Just tell us kind of how you came over and just you acclimating yourself into the ACP family.
So I previously knew Coach Rudder through track and field, and when the coaching changes at the end of last season started to occur, I was recommended for the job that was going to eventually be for the offensive coordinating position. And then once Coach Vaught, interviewed and was announced, we had kind of went through a preseason planning meetings and interview type of process and kind of jumped right in through winter sevens 2 weeks after he was hired. So it was a quick turnaround and a quick acclimation period. And when it came to jumping in and hitting the ground running.
Cody Bartz, defensive coordinator. You're not really a newbie, but you're at this level. You're getting it done, and you're running a fine defense. Tell me about kind of your indoctrination to ACP, and you've seen some changes, but the changes are trending upwards.
Yeah, no, I ended up coming over here from Highland, spent 5 years at Highland under Brock Farrell and Jason Lyons, and similar to him, I came over here because of Jacob Rudder. I graduated from ASU looking for a teaching job, and he introduced me to Coach Vaught in Vaught's first year when he came over, and I was like, yeah, I obviously need to keep a roof on my head, so, let's go work for another great defensive coordinator of mine in the state, and this offseason with all the coaching changes that happened and the culture shift we were trying to make, Coach Vaught came to me and said, hey, like, there's no one in this program who knows the defense better than you. So here you go, take it over. And it's been great since then.
I've got a special place in my heart for special teams coordinators. When I coached youth football, that was my role. They just kind of threw me at that role. But, Coach, we'll talk about your role, but just tell me about you and ACP.
Oh, well, I started here the first year of this campus when it started. This is my fourth year here. The first year I came in, I was a D-line and coach and a running backs coach, and got the head coach got let go, and then I had to become the intern head coach at that point for JV for the freshman level. Then the next 2 years later, or 2 years going, I got the JV head coach job, and then just last year I got promoted to the varsity level, so it was my first year here. And he wanted to bring somebody on, had some energy and a love and passion for special teams, and here I am.
Swing back to offense as we catch up with Robert Ortiz. Coach, I've only gotten to see you guys play in person once, and I'm hoping that will change as the season progresses. Yuma Catholic, your offense was always in attack mode. Tell me about that.
That's probably my general philosophy is to kind of keep the game as balanced when it comes to run and pass, although we were pretty run heavy to open the year. But in the Yuma game, we knew that they could strike pretty much at any time, and that they have some pretty explosive athletes on their side of the, on their team as well. And so for us, it was about getting up as quickly as we could and making sure that we executed and dominated to put to take some pressure off of our defense and allow them to kind of do what they do best, and which is to get us the ball back. Philosophically speaking, if I could go for two, no disrespect to Coach D, if I could go for two every time, I would. If I could go for it on all fourth downs, I would. That's just who I am as a person, and we wanna get up and get up as quick as we can to hopefully have our kids not feel like they're in pressure situations. And so trying to keep it as balanced as possible, making sure that we're keeping teams guessing as much as we can, and then taking shots pretty much at any given time that we feel like they're necessary.
Coach Bartz, tell me about your defense and just how it's grown into your style. You guys have had a fine season so far.
It's been fun. I mean, I coached D-line and I played offensive line. And so for me, like I'm a true box guy. And I know Vaught played linebacker and corner and was more of a DB's guy. And so I've really enjoyed pouring into understanding the back end so I can have more fun in the front end. And that's kind of what we've done these last 3 or 4 weeks, is really focusing on creative ways to put our kids into position to be successful, and kind of allowing kids to take ownership of some blitzes or stunts or techniques that we're teaching them, and taking advantage of our depth on defense. I mean, it makes my life really easy as a DC when, I can look at too deep and go, cool, I can still call anything I need to, and it makes life really easy. But I mean, philosophy-wise, it's been pouring into the secondary, learning the secondary as a guy who put my hand in the dirt, sure, and translating that to then being able to empower what I do very well, which is the box, through what we can do on the back end.
I like hearing that. I definitely like hearing that. Coach Wendelschafer, something that's probably true, and you know better than most, 1 out of every 3 plays on the football field essentially is a special teams play when it comes down to it. Tell me about you kind of have to float back and forth, offense, defense, punt, hey, we're going for the extra point, field goal, all of that sort of stuff.
Well, it's all about having your head on the swivel, being focused up, putting aces in their places. And over here, it's not special teams, it's special ops. So we're always on a mission. We always have goals in mind, whether it's the restacking or lane principles or drifting guidelines. But we always have standards, rules, and a mission at the end of the day. So we don't like talking about it, we be about it.
Taking on a team and beating them twice in as short of a time as your mission against Arcadia is, what's that like, Coach Ortiz?
It definitely makes it a little tougher when it comes to game planning, because having played them 2 weeks ago, we know that this time around in the playoffs, it's win or go home, and on their end, we don't necessarily know what type of adjustments they're going to make. The first go around, we were able to watch all 8 of their games, or 9 of their games leading into ours. So it's able to see every little adjustment that they make along the way. And so, to see a team like Estrella make some adjustments last week that we weren't necessarily expecting, that's something that we know to expect moving forward from any team that we may face. And so for us, it's got to be prepared for anything at any given time. For on their end, it's making sure that we continue to put ourselves in a position to take advantage of the matchups that we were able to exploit last time. But then what are their adjustments going to be to eliminate that explosive play that we were able to take advantage of 2 weeks ago?
I'll wrap this up with you, Cody. I would imagine it's kind of the same thing that Coach Ortiz is talking about, only you have to look at things on a different side of the ball.
Yeah, I mean, I equate football to chess in a lot of ways because you can look 20 moves ahead, but if someone makes an adjustment, then you have to take a couple steps back. And especially for us on defense with what they're doing with number 5 at quarterback and number 10, obviously he didn't finish the game against us the first time, but he was dressed out on the sideline this last game, but then didn't play even when being down against Seton. So, it's just preparing our guys. We said in our meeting today, we put both 5 and 10 on our roster sheet because we don't know who's going to play. We got to prepare for both. And I mean, I love that it gives our kids another opportunity to pour into preparation. And we just got to own it. You don't know who's going to play. Show up and let's play some football. And whoever it is whoever it is.
Coach Wendelschafer, do you guys have 3 more in you?
Absolutely.
Indeed, they have 3 more left in them. And Chili, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you guys now. I don't know what's going on.
Good deal. Maybe it was just the interview. You didn't miss much. No, you actually did. You had 3 assistants who really broke it down. And Chili, that's the one thing that Coach Vaught has really explained. He's like, hey, you know what? Yeah, I'm the head guy, but at the same time, I've got quality people, and they really broke down what they do.
Yeah, look, Coach Vaught's done a great job of, delegating responsibility and making sure that, his coaches underneath him are taking care of business. And he's doing a good job of, raising them and breeding them and getting them ready to be head coaches themselves, taking the responsibility completely off of himself and giving it to them and trusting them. So, I think that is a testament. And it's proof that you can trust people within the circle that you create. You can trust the people to do the job that you set them up to do. So I think that's a huge part as to why they're so successful this year. This is ACP unlike anything that I've ever really witnessed over there. And man, you got to love the way these guys are playing, making adjustments on the fly, and adapting to the different things that they're seeing from teams that they've already seen, which is going to happen again.
Ralph, I'll say the one thing that ACP has a chance to do, they won a playoff game last year. This year they get to win 2, maybe even a total of 4. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, the expectations are really high. They already have a win over Arcadia. Isn't that Arcadia's only real loss?
Yes, that's right.
So they already have that win over Arcadia. The way people were talking about ACP after this Estrella Foothills game was weird. It was I thought they'd win by more. Did you guys hear?
Yes.
Any of that?
Yes.
I'm they just won a playoff game by 3 touchdowns where they dominated, and people were like, no, that wasn't enough. And so the bar has been raised. The bar has been raised. If they don't dispose of Arcadia this week, that whole team's going to be heartbroken. The expectation is that ACP is going to be playing for a championship. They got the win over Yuma Catholic. They got the win over Arcadia. It's kind of championship or bust this year, it feels like.
It is. It's I'll say, and I don't, we always just want to go 1-0 each week, but that's a big one if they host that semifinal game against Snowflake the day after Thanksgiving. That's huge. That's a championship game in itself. So it's good stuff. But I'll say ACP, keep doing what you're doing, and we want to really continue to give you a lot more love, especially next week. You guys win. We've got something different in store for you, that's for sure. We'll move on to the Casteel Colts, and the postseason run, it continues. I'll say this, a 29-27 win over the Highland Hawks. Unexpected. This is a team that was down 24-0. They got it done with Isaiah Linier, a couple of touchdown runs. Paul Palmer, senior quarterback, very, very effective late in the game. Just overall, Chile, this senior leadership, Chile, shows what these cults are made of, and it seems like they're also going through some things.
No, for sure. And listen, I'm glad that you brought that up, the senior leadership thing, because I actually talked to Paul Palmer on my show last night, the 2P Shameless plug, and he told me that, like, they did come out a little bit flat. They were a little bit in disarray, if you will, with the coaching situation. But at halftime, they got themselves together. There was a little back and forth in the locker room, and Linear was one of the guys that stepped up and kind of gathered everybody together and put the team back together. Then you saw Casteel come out and have one of the most remarkable comebacks that I think any of us, Ralph, I'm guessing you probably saw some of this on NFHS, but that any of us was watching take place on Twitter, unfold on Twitter. I'm surprised, but I'm not, because I've watched a lot of these 25s for a long time. I've seen like a lot how resilient some of them are, especially Paul Palmer. And anytime that you have a decision maker like that doesn't really give the ball away to the other team, you always have an opportunity to make things happen. There's a circus surrounding Casteel that me and Ralph talked about early in the day on Friday and stuff, and not knowing which direction that whole thing was going to go. This morning, I wake up and I see this tweet from Brad Sesmat. Bobby Newcombe, Coach Newcombe, back as head coach for Friday's Casteel versus Centennial game. Man, I don't know. I don't really know what's about to happen over at Casteel with this whole thing, but the whole thing it's kind of crazy to me.
Who wants to set the table for people who aren't necessarily up to date with what happened on Friday at Casteel? Does anybody want to try to explain this?
I can't. When I say I can't, there's so much going on. I don't know I'm aware of what's going on, but I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know everything, but I think on Friday at the moment, I think I had a little bit more information, if you will, Ralph, than you did, which is why, like, when we talked, I gave you what I had heard and what I knew. And what I knew at the time was that on Thursday at practice, Coach Newcombe, however he did it, guys take a knee and kind of yelled at them. Coach tried to coach them up. Some things were said. Some words were said, some profanities or whatever. This is a PG show, so I can't say any of them or all of them or whatever. So he tried to give his guys the tough talk. Now, my experiences with Coach Newcombe, not that he's not a tough guy, but that's not really how he operates. That's not really how he coaches his kids. He's not a yeller. I don't really see him yelling at the kids or anything like that, or talking over a certain volume level to his guys. That's just not what I see. So he did that, circled the kids up, gave them the tough talk, and then all of a sudden, at about 3:00, the team was called in or notified that there was going to be a new coach, and then the email went out at around almost 4:00. I think the email went out saying that I think it said Coach Beeman would be the head coach for the Friday night game. Insane. The whole thing is insane. And parents, I am sorry. I am not a parent. So I don't know what it's like to have my child yelled at, but I played football. I was yelled at. My godfather, Frank Kush, coached football. I was yelled at by him. He said some very, very unkind things to me, and he was my godfather. So I know it's possible to coach kids and say some things and have the kids compartmentalize that stuff. I don't know all the details. Ralph, I'll let you take it from here because I think you might have a few more things to add. But for now, if all of that is true, I side with Coach Newcombe. Like, I think that this is crazy. Like, you got to be able to I'm sorry, yell at the kids, talk loud, turn the volume up a little bit. try to get them motivated. Ralph, take the mic.
Yeah, so I'm going to read first of all, I'm going to read Bobby Newcombe's AZ Central quote, because it's hard to say reinstated because they never called this a suspension. Here's what it feels like. This is the feelings over facts right here. It feels like they thought they were going to lose to Highland, and they figured whatever happened, we got to get to the bottom of it. So we're not going to call it a suspension because we don't think we're going to win anyway. So here's a cooling off period. And they come back and announce, Casteel has moved on from Bobby Newcombe. He's no longer the head coach. We thank him for his service, yada, yada, yada. That's what I thought was coming. But then they beat Highland. And so we get the announcement this morning from Brad Sesmat, who is close to Bobby Newcombe. It says that he's going to be back as the head coach for this week's game against Centennial, which is a 12 against a 13 or something like that.
14-11.
14-11. Okay. So yeah, double digits going to the semis.
Same thing. Right. Yep.
Mm-hmm. So here, so this is the quote from Bobby Newcombe to AZ Central. It says, "What I was doing initially, I didn't think was working very well. I thought I was probably a little soft. I tried a different method of trying to motivate them. I used profanity at the end. I realized that's unacceptable and unnecessary. I was disciplined severely. They didn't call it a suspension. None of that. Disciplined severely for using profanity. It was in a practice. I'm trying to motivate my players, light a fire under them before we played Highland on Friday because we had lost to them 4 straight times." Now, if you're just taking Bobby Newcombe's side of this, which obviously that must be really what it is, because if they thought he posed a danger to the kids, which is hilarious to even think about, that they invited him back, right? I'm going to be honest. My kids get cussed out in practice if the coach feels like it's been too long since they got cussed out last time. So I personally don't identify with this at all. I don't think you should be abusive to kids, period. But the English language exists for a myriad of purposes: to change your tone, to be dynamic, to use different words to emphasize different things. And it's football. And if you don't get your ass in gear, you're going to be sitting at home doing nothing. Or you're going to be at wrestling practice getting yelled at by the wrestling coach. Somebody's going to be yelling at you. It's either going to be your parents or a different coach. If you want me to keep yelling at you, go beat Highland. That's the way that it comes off to me. Like the idea that Bobby Newcombe, with his 5 college degrees and his do everything by the book the right way, take no shortcuts attitude, that has seen a lot of kids transfer out because they wanted a flashier experience or more recruiting, or the fact that he had a starting quarterback who's, I'm not going to get too into this, but there are players who had been on the team, finished on the team, and had their parents out here undermining the coach to the media. Like, we thought Bobby Newcombe might not last there. You talked about it on this show plenty of times. Before the COVID period, we didn't think he was going to make it to COVID because the parents wanting a different experience for their kids. They got used to the thing under Stowers. They won a 3A title and then thought everything should be sweet at 5A, and it wasn't. And so, and I've spoken to Casteel. They've gotten together in their Center for the Arts over there. I've spoken to them about, with Brad Sesmat, about how, you have a coach who doesn't want you to take shortcuts. It's going to serve you in the long run. The idea that this wasn't intentional from him and that he just freaked out, I'm sure you have to investigate it as administrators. They're in charge of other people's kids. But it's really hard after years of covering this program to not side with Bobby Newcombe and think that he just thought he was doing something that would be helpful. I would love to hear from the parent and or dissatisfied person who made this a larger issue and created a story that we're talking about right now. Because not for any other reason, not to ridicule them. I'm just interested in their perspective. Because some people do have different perspectives on this. Sean Aguano had a no yelling policy. And if you did yell, you had to reconcile with that player, and you had to do it publicly. And so, everybody's kind of different on this. I never took it personally when I got yelled at because I knew there was an objective. And if you lose sight of the objective, then that's abusive. We've had abusive coaches in the district.
Yep.
That we talked about on this podcast. And what's strange is we've also had those schools make excuses for those coaches. They lied to protect why Bernie Buskin was pushed out at Basha. They tried to make it like, oh, he's just getting older and he needed a surgery, so he had to move on. Meanwhile, he went to North High School where he shoved a kid against the locker. He wasn't done coaching.
Right.
But in this case, it gets out to us that, like, Bobby Newcombe he hurt some feelings, and so he has to take a week off. It just feels like a very different way to handle things to me.
Yeah, it's I'll continue to kind of always say what I've felt about Casteel, and it's not a bad thing. It's just it's a different method. I mean, it's a school that has won some games, obviously, that's for sure. They've got a great football program. They've only had 2 head coaches for all intents and purposes. There just seems. Well, yes, but what I'm saying is it's been a steady school. They haven't really moved the needle, and in this case, it's like they're still not moving the needle. It's like, hey, he's not coaching, but now he is. We'll see what happens. It's just a mystery, and I mean, obviously, we want Casteel to continue to win as many games as they can. I mean, it's just a different type of program, and I don't say that in a bad way.
It's a school named after a lady who, I'm not slandering this woman's name, but would certainly use colorful language in order to motivate you if she thought it was
absolutely
necessary.
I am a fan. One of my favorite pictures is she and the late Dr. Sandy Lundberg, who was the first principal over at Casteel, both of them with their head on my shoulder, which I think it's really, really cool. But yeah, we'll see what Casteel does. I mean, they're taking on a very hot Centennial team right now. I mean, who would have thought they would still be playing? I mean, obviously, we know that teams in the back half of the season are different than their first 5 games, but overall, yeah, the Colts have another challenge, but it's on home ground. So we'll see if Bobby Newcombe and the Colts can get into the 6A semis, which would be just amazing. Next on the docket, the Perry Pumas. They defeat the Chandler Wolves 27-24. Very, very competitive game. I was blessed to call it. It was a really fun game to be part of. 10-0 Chandler, 20-10 Perry, 24-20, and ultimately, yes, 27-24 Pumas. They scored the only touchdown in that fourth quarter. The biggest difference was they made a defensive stop when they needed to, and they got the offensive touchdown when they needed to. I liked what they did with Cale Snyder. He threw to receivers, and they created space. It wasn't about the long bombs. It was about the passes to Frazier and Nate Wheeler. They used them very well. Ralph, I'll ask you, and it's probably a game that you tuned into, I'm guessing, your thoughts on just the ebb and flow. I thought when they were down 20-10, it's like, okay, this might be a runaway. But then enter Tristan Halsana, which makes things close. It was back and forth.
Yeah, the game felt over twice. And by 3 times. Chandler was backed up with like a 4th and 20 with maybe like a minute left inside their own 5. And Carmigiano was it Ochoa?
Ochoa, yeah.
Yeah, for like a 30-yard gain. And then it was almost like resolute in your voice that like, all right, this is the last play. And then they got it. And then, and then they went right back into Perry holding them on 4 downs and winning the game. But yeah, I think there were 3 times where I was like, all right, this is over. And it was 20-10. It was 24-20 when the momentum had shifted so violently in Chandler's.
Yes.
And then the fact that Perry answered in the way that they answered, I thought that was a more pivotal and important moment than the 99-yard Nate Wheelhouse pick 6, because in the one instance, you had Chandler thinking, if we make one less mistake, we had him on the ropes. In this one, it's no, like all you had to do was stop Perry's offense, something you've done in this game several times. And Perry made a statement, and I just thought it was really cool. I thought you did a great job calling the game.
Thank you.
Rough end of the season for Chandler, first non-winning season in like 15 years or whatever. Incredible era. But this is Perry made the decision to hire Joseph Ortiz. They had a lot of great applicants. It was, I think, left us wondering, is this a person that bit off more than they could chew? Because I think wanting to coach in the Premier Region, wanting to coach in the Chandler Unified School District, it takes being a little bit crazy. But to win, it takes being a lot crazy. And,
True.
Coach Ortiz is just he's such a nice guy. But like the way he's assembled a staff, the way he's won everywhere he's been, and having 2 victories in your pocket over Chandler High School, like that, the nice guy stuff better be the 3rd or 4th thing you bring up when you're talking about Coach Ortiz from now on, right? Like it's no more
he's a
like,
winner.
Yeah, he's nice, but no, he's a win. Yeah, he's a winner. And it's not, the job's not finished. And he told Jose Garcia before the season they either wanted to get in the open or they wanted to challenge for the 6A conference title. And they are in a position right now going up against a Brophy team where it's hard not to believe that it's possible for them, because
Correct.
they have 2 wins over Chandler and a win over 8-2 Queen Creek, who should be in the open. And if they had done to Brophy what they did to Chandler in that 4th quarter, they'd have that win too.
That's right. That's very true. Coming up with the big stop when they needed to. No, you're right. Chili, this Pumas team is their offense is. I liked what they're doing. I mean, that's the one thing that seeing a full game and being locked in on a full game, seeing what Snyder's doing, the short passes, the open space that serves him really well. And then suddenly when you hit LJ Walker downfield, it's a nice combo. It really is.
I think Perry's kind of proof that, these aren't losses, they're lessons. The close loss to Brophy, the close loss to Casteel, the tough loss to Williamsfield. And now down the stretch, 2 wins over Chandler, an opportunity to get back versus Brophy. I think that we're going to see if that's really the case, if they can turn those losses into real life lessons that they can learn from and employ during actual games. So, last time versus Brophy, Kale threw 34 passes, completed 12. He threw volume passes versus Chandler and no interceptions and had a pretty high completion percentage, if I'm not mistaken. I think that as long as they're opportunistic, and the defense tightens up at the right time, I think that Perry will be able to avenge that loss, that earlier season loss that they really feel like they shouldn't have. Brophy's good though. They're consistent. They got a pair of quarterbacks over there that can go. Rylan Humphrey and Case Vandenbosch, they're studs. They got dudes all over that defense. Bastion Vandenbosch, Cree Thomas, Dominic Mitchell. They got guys that are going to get after you. And then also they got this mammoth offensive line led by Powell and Cobb and Cunningham and those guys. So, Perry's gonna have their work cut out for them. They just better be ready to do it. So Kale, guys like Frazier, Augustine, the young guys are gonna have to step up. LJ Walker is gonna have to be a dude, continue to be a dude. Moon, Maddox, Ford, all those guys are going to have to do their part and make sure that they can, close Brophy out.
I'll say that is the one. I'm not going to say the one strength, but you rattle off a bunch of names. Let's even put Walker out of that mix. That whole Moon, Maddox, Ford carrying the ball, getting the short slant passes. That's where the Pumas are dangerous, and that's where Snyder, for now, I think, throws his best ball. We know he can throw deep, but I think his comfort level right now is hitting those guys because these guys can get that yak, that yard after catch. So I'm liking what we see, and yeah, Brophy can bring it. So it'll be a good match Friday night at Central High School.
And listen, the guy that I think played the key role with the big interception against Kale Snyder last time, Pike. Like you got to know where he's at all times. He's one of those leaders over there at Brophy that he's going to be looking to make that big play that closes a team out for the season. So just got to know where he's at. High IQ kid, so just be prepared.
Good stuff. And one team that I do believe is going to be prepared, the Hamilton Huskies. Are the Huskies ready to make that trip and go down south to Marana? I'm going to flat out say yes. I think that, and we'll talk about some rankings potentially and all that fun stuff, but yeah, Desmond Roebuck, solid. Colton Meyer, yeah, Jeff Smith, the whole 9 yards. The Tigers are a good team. There's no doubt about that. But at the same time, I think the Hamilton Huskies are a better team. I think they are going to prove that. They've got the senior QB in Rich Lucero, and we talk all about the plethora of receivers that the Huskies can bring. And no, they're probably not going to complete passes to 13 different receivers on Friday night. But at the same time, they're very deep at that position. You unleash Jacob Brown. I think it's a recipe for an 8 beating a 1. And the 8 in this case is out of the CUSD, Chili.
Yeah, man. Listen, I think that Marana's tough. I got to watch them play. I think Desmond Roebuck is Arizona's Player of the Year. How do you contain that? He's a two-way guy. Plays defense, plays offense. How much can you limit him on offense? At what point does he start to pop off? But he's not the only Roebuck there. Sean Roebuck is an absolute dog. He can make some big plays when he needs to. So how much attention do you play to Desmond? And then how much does that unbalance your defense and take some attention off the other side? But Hamilton, they just might be too deep. They might have too many levels to them for Marana to handle. At some point, the LeBlanc and all those kids at Hamilton might wear down Marana. It might be too much for any 5A team. And that's a real difference. What I think it comes down to when you talk about these 6A teams versus these 5A teams is the actual depth. How long can Marana go for? The problem becomes is if you let Marana hang around, and this is only a 10-point game or a 7-point game, what is Des gonna do? At what point is he gonna pop off? Because he's capable of so much. He can turn the game around on either side of the field. So you just got to be careful. I think if Hamilton wants to win this game, they got to blow them out. They got to get started. They got to get started early. If I'm them, I'm running the ball heavy with Jacob Brown. I'm putting the ball in his hands. Let him go crazy for a half. Try to pile him up to around the tune of 120, 150 yards rushing, so that in the third and fourth quarter, Lucero can comfortably start using that arm, using that IQ to pick this team apart and taking advantage of those receivers, Torres, Oliver, and Rinaldi and some of those guys. But this is a very, very potent Marana offense.
Mr. Ralph.
No hope for Hamilton. Hamilton's cooked. They're done. Season's over.
That's what I like about you, Ralph. You know how to joke every now and then.
Well, here's the deal.
The ultimate troll job.
There have been five 1-8 games in open history. The 1 seed is 5-0.
Yes, they are.
An average of 32 points a game. So, unless you're telling me something changed with the formula, maybe something a little different this year than in years past, then my expectation is going to be that this turns out the way that it's always turned out, which is that the number 8 seed doesn't belong on the field with the 1 seed. Unless maybe somebody made some type of adjustment that caused 4 5A teams to be in the top tournament in the land, even though one of them has 3 losses.
Are 1 seeds still undefeated versus 16 seeds in the NCAA tournament?
No.
Like, it's going to happen at some point. Like,
it's not going to happen on Friday.
But you don't have 1 seed Oakland versus 16 seed Kentucky.
But I'm just saying it's gonna happen at some point. Like, you know, and we'll see how this works out. But you know, I'm just excited to see some competitive football.
So this is a true 1 seed.
This is a true
1 seed. So when you look at the 1 seeds from 2019 to 2023, and then you look at 2024 and you say those are all the same.
I didn't say they're all the same. I don't think the teams are ever all the same.
Oh, well, the other ones are 5-0 by an average of 32 points. I just want to point that out. So 5-0 by an average of 32. Last year was the lowest, and that was 12.
Yeah, I'm just expecting and hoping for a competitive game. I want to see Marana come out there and you know, and compete.
I also would like to see a competitive game. If there isn't one, and it happens to be that the 8 seed does what we think it's going to do, then it would be nice if somebody admitted that maybe there's something a little different about this year than in years past.
Hold on. I don't think there's anything different. For years I've said that I think that there's a mystery hand that kind of, you know, formulates this open situation.
But does the mystery hand have a brain?
I'm not the one that gets mad about this stuff. I just want to see kids play football. Everybody else takes it so personally and gets up.
Well, just letting you know, Chili, you're gonna see the number 1 seed go down on Friday night.
And here's where Chili, here's where you and I will argue every single time, because you say you just want to see kids play football, and I'm telling you that if no one is going to be playing football at Marana on November 30th,
correct,
I'm the one that's going to be upset that less football is being played.
Right. That's why and I agree with you, Ralph.
They got their
it would
playoff
suck
game
for Marana not to play on Thanksgiving or after Thanksgiving. The 5A is going to be empty.
Hey, well, I heard that the head of the AIA is going to open up, so I think that you guys should both apply for that. Hey,
I'd much rather.
I would love to see y'all. I would love to see y'all run the AIA. That for sure.
Well, then you would get to see the number 1 team in 5A playing on November 30th.
Maybe, or maybe they get upset, you know, before that. You don't know.
By the 16th, no, actually we do
not.
Actually, we do know.
You don't know that.
Those 4 teams,
you don't know what would happen. That would be like saying that you can guarantee this team's going to win over that team like every time, and that's not possible. That's why the game is played.
I correctly predicted all.
You did. I will give you that. That is impressive. That was actually impressive.
It's not hard to figure out that. First of all, Hamilton almost didn't make the Open,
and that would suck.
I know, that's crazy.
That would have just sucked.
But you did predict that they would, and they did. Right.
Yeah, it took about 9 different things happening.
Because I thought Mountain View was going to get in offset.
No,
they should be there too.
No, I agree. I said that.
As long as Hamilton got in, because a 9-1 Hamilton team not in the Open would have been the most ridiculous thing, borderline ever.
I will get maybe not a permanent tattoo, but a temporary AIA tattoo if Marana beats, and I'll get it on my face if Marana beats Hamilton.
Oh man, that's awesome. That's awesome. I love seeing y'all this upset. This is crazy.
We're not upset. We just stating facts.
I'm a little upset.
No, you're a little upset. It's okay.
Upset.
You're a little upset.
I'm not the Marana lover like you, though.
I love all the kids, though. I love all the schools equally.
You especially love this Marana team. You're like, oh, Brett, you don't know none of the players, blah, blah, this and that.
Well, Brett, the Marana players can come hang out with Chili at whatever game he's at on November 30th.
That works. Yes. Chili, invite them up to your crib.
Not to my crib. I'll be out at a game somewhere, but You know, it's all good.
Be on the
Hey,
sidelines.
Listen, Brett, your sensitivity's at an all-time high. Stop being mad.
I think
it's okay. No, stop being mad. Stop being mad. Stop being mad. Breathe.
Really?
Both of you guys. Breathe. Settle down. Breathe. It's okay.
How am I mad?
It's okay.
The Hamilton Huskies are in the open.
Look how hot you are right now, and it's okay.
I'm very happy that Hamilton's in the open. Had they not been in the open, I would.
You would have cried. Would you have quit? 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 Would you have quit covering football? Would you have quit covering football?
He's contracted.
This is like those people that complain about like the presidency, and then they're like, "Oh my God, like I can't believe this person's gonna win. I'm gonna move out of the country." No, you're not. Shut up. Just keep,
no one ever made
this thing moving. Like I'm just saying, like no. So I'm asking. I didn't say you did. I'm just asking. Like, would you quit? Like, how important is this to you, really? Like, stop complaining. Let's move on.
It is very important to me that the best team in 5A has an opportunity to play more than 11 games in a season. That is very important. That's
but you don't know. But you don't know. They could get upset in the first round too of their own conference playoff.
No,
you can't. You can't guarantee. You can't guarantee none of that.
Yes, I can.
At high school football, Chile, one is not losing to a
okay. Well, then let God speak. Let God speak.
All right.
Let God speak. The 4 teams that got included.
Whatever you say, God. Yeah, God. Okay.
Okay, well, when you stop talking,
let's move on.
The four teams that got in the 5A playoffs.
All right, can we move on?
Got included.
Can we move on?
The 4 teams.
Can we move on because I got something to do here?
Well, no, so. I'm going to finish.
Your point.
Well, I'll let you finish on the phone, or we can stop. It's up to you. It's up to you. But I do have. Here's the deal. I do have to go in 6 minutes. In 6 minutes. So choose how you want to end
this sentence is only going to take 10 seconds. And it would have been over with if you didn't get upset. So
I'm not upset. Like I'm listening to you guys complain and cry and bitch and complain. Like let's go.
Hey, you said this podcast was PG.
Yeah, I'm using the word like as you complaining. It is PG.
I am complaining. Yeah, what's wrong with me complaining?
Yes, you are complaining. So keep complaining. Let's go. All right, I'm listening. Keep going.
We're done because you took 2 minutes to complain that I had one sentence to say.
So you don't want to say the sentence now.
You didn't want.
So now we have 5 minutes.
I'm respecting you, and we're moving on.
All right, let's go.
We will move on to arguably the best team in the state. Arguably, you've heard the 3 of us with our various opinions. The Basha Bears and the Horizon Huskies. It's another 6A, 5A matchup. Oh, look what we have here in the open: 4A against 5A. Love it. Nobody's mad, but yes, in this case, a 6A is going to defeat a 5A. Ralph, yes, I'm going to let you talk. Basha Bears should have no problems with this.
True. I think this maybe be a little bit tougher of a game. But I think that, the 6A teams are the 6A teams in this particular tournament. They are very, very good. Basha hasn't lost to anybody in the state of Arizona. Chile and I agree that they're probably the number 1 team in the state. They did not get the number 1 ranking in this tournament, which is kind of nice for them because then what else would they have to be motivated for being on the other side of the bracket from Liberty, which is what a lot of people believe that the championship's ultimately going to be. So you have to manufacture some level of motivation. Them not winning the title last year is a little bit of it, but the formula giving like the extra disrespect of them not being the number 1 team, it could be a thing that helps keep them focused.
Chili, what you got?
I like Basha to win. This is the best team in the state by far. I think, my opinion. They're loaded everywhere.
I think we all agree on that.
Skill positions. Horizon. If there's a hope, their only hope is that defensive line, led by Jackson Murray, who's an absolute animal, has to get his hands on Brody Beers. Has to make sure that Noah Roberts doesn't take off. Ridley is a fantastic looking athlete, fantastic specimen over there. But man, I think it's just going to be too much Basha. I watched Basha in their only loss of the season to a very, very good Mission Viejo team, who I think they just lost in the Final Four in the CIF playoffs to that same Corona Centennial team that Liberty lost to. I think it's just going to be too much Basha. I think it's going to be too much Basha. I don't know how much to say on it.
shout out to Blue Dancer, the Oregon State commit. Shout out to Gio Richardson, who I feel like I don't ever give enough love to, but he is easily one of the best receivers in one of the best receiving classes that I think we've seen in Arizona, maybe ever in my time. If you talk about like the top 5 to 10 guys, this and Gio's right there at the top. So I just want to give him some love because I really feel like throughout the season, like I've always missed out on showing Gio the love that he deserves. But Bash is incredible. Bash is incredible. The only people that can beat Bash are the people at Bash.
Folks, you have watched 90 minutes, pretty much exactly 90 minutes of the reason why this is the best podcast around. It truly is. We cover Chandler area high school sports like nobody's business. We cover it from A to Z. We'll see you guys next week. Thanks, guys.
I love my brothers, even though we fight. I love my brothers. I just want to put that out there.